Hello, wonderful people. We are Mark Romboy and Robert Babic, and we heartily welcome you to Marotopia, our special world. And we are very happy that you are around. Robert, how are you?
I am alive again. Yeah, as you know, we had to cancel our last Monday because I got the booster, the so-called booster shot, and it took me apart. So I was kind of sick the last few days, but I'm back. I'm back. So
Back on track.
Happy to be here with you, Mark, and with our people here watching us. And I'm glad everybody is coming. We have a really cool show today, a special guest and a great topic. I'm nervous. I want to learn.
Yes, me too. Me too. Yeah, this is episode number 2 of Marotopia. So episode 1 is done. We did it December the 21st, and we played it this afternoon on Twitch again for some reason. The reason was that we made a little mistake. We entered wrong preferences, so that the first show was not recorded on Twitch on the page, and now it is. So big thanks to Andre for doing this, and now it's watchable. And now it's episode 2, and episode 2 or part 2 or album 2 is always something special because the excitement of the first part is over, and now it's about to become regular. So what do you think about our first show, despite the fact that you went offline?
I mean, a little bit drama is always welcome, right? So when I have a power cut, it's a bit of drama, and it can happen again today. You never know. It's
Okay.
in Malta, people say for everything good and everything bad, mela. So if you want to learn your first Maltese word, mela.
Mela. M-E-L-L-A, or how is it spelled?
Just M-E-L-A. Mela.
Okay, Mela. Yeah, does it happen frequently, these power cuts? I mean,
Yeah,
I was a little
sometimes.
surprised. Sometimes
Yeah.
means.
Yeah. If 4 or 5 times a year. Yeah.
And exactly during your first
Our
part
first-
of our sensational TV show, it happened.
Yes. Great, right? We will see. How, yeah. I think today will be fine.
Yeah, come back to your jab when you called me and said, Mark, I'm completely finished. I have so much pain. I was a little bit sad because I was really looking forward to go online with the people last Monday, but then I thought, okay, health is first, and we should not stress ourselves. This show must be something really relaxed, something without force, without any special aim other than that we just want to create a community with you guys out there. And so I said, okay, it is what it is.
Yeah. I
Although
was
it was
feeling
episode
horrible.
2.
I was feeling so horrible. So we have a better episode 2 today. For sure.
I was just thinking about when you told me about it. Imagine you are, let's say, in Australia on tour, and this happens. So I was very happy that you were at home.
Yes.
So I think that's always the best place when it comes to these situations, right?
Yeah, just stay in bed. Actually, yeah. maybe it was also nice to have like end of the year just staying in bed without stress. Okay, I was feeling like shit, but at the same time, it was nice to stay in bed for a few days. So it was nice.
Yeah. All
But,
good.
Mark, because I want to know, I see you have some records behind you. And I'm always curious. I saw a post of you that you have a new label with old material bringing back, and I see it on your corner. And there's a, as you know, I'm a nerd. There's a mixing board. Can you show us this record for a moment?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning this, because I decided, well, I must tell the people what it was about. So I thought a lot about the background. And I mean, your background is amazing. You are in your studio, which is also your kind of living room. And I was always thinking about, okay, will I stream from a studio or maybe not? And then I decided to not stream from my studio, because I wanted to separate both worlds a little bit and not making my studio a YouTube or Twitch studio. And this is the room next to my studio. And we have also a kitchen here and boards with instruments and all this stuff. And then I thought it could be nice to be in front of a board and always change the records. So, and yeah, I mean, a few of you might have seen already my Facebook and Instagram post from yesterday. This is a huge piece of history, of my history, because the act Microwave Prince was the most successful, relevant and touching act on my very first label, Le Petit Prince, which I made with a friend. His name is Klaus. And yeah, I was thinking for a long time to reactivate such a label, because of the vinyl boom and also of the fact that good tracks will never disappear and or will never become bad. And so we decided to wrap up the history of Microwave Prince in a 3 vinyl package. And now a special story behind it. This is his mixing desk. And
It looks self-made. It looks completely self-made.
Yeah, you asked me before the show, and then I said, let's do it within the show. Yeah, it's self-made. It's self-made. It's actually even my picture. I took it 1 year ago in his garage. And yeah, the first tracks he made, I think the first 3 volumes, Microwave Prince 1, 2, 3, were made with this mixer. And this is something he never mentioned in any video or interview. So it's now revealed. And another funny thing is, this is the track listing, including all his club anthems and techno anthems. And there's one track we didn't press. And that was, or that is his actually most successful one, I Need Your Love, which was more a mistake. It was a huge hit in this low spirit rave, Westbam and Co stream, which was very successful and hip around 93, 94. And as far as I know, I mean, we can invite him in January or February. Then he can tell us himself, because he's also mastering engineer, he's also building compressors and EQs himself under the name Custom Audio Germany. And then he can tell us about this himself. But I think I Need Your Love was more an accident. It was like, okay, this stuff is successful. I just do it once for fun. and it became a huge hit. And but it was his only. That's also something really funny. It was his only rave track ever. I Need Your Love.
Okay, that's interesting. Actually, I need to listen to this to understand. Or can you play it straight away? I don't know. Is it possible? No. No, we talked about this. You will get soon. You will get a vinyl player, and in the future we can listen to some great records together here in our little show here.
Yeah, we are thinking a lot what we can provide us and you out there. And yeah, thanks for all the great comments. I'm reading them. And thanks a lot, Florian, for your comment as well. Dortmund, yeah, that was a good time 5 years ago. And yeah, we want your feedback. So we have a lot of ideas. We want to create projects together with you next year. We want your feedback and another ideas also to make a, how do you call it, demo track session. How do you call it?
Yeah, a track feedback. We will do a track feedback maybe end of January, where you can send in your tracks and we listen to this together and give some feedback. If you are interested, of course. But I'm pretty sure you are.
Yeah, so we want to make frequent demo sessions. We want to invite a lot of people we know, who are our friends, people, who are, let's say, who have an, I don't know the English word, expertise. Do you say that? Expertise? Who have a certain expert opinion about things. Where they know more about the topic than us.
Like today.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't want to spoiler, but we have a lot of people, good friends on our list. And of course, it's also about music production. It will be about psychology. And burnout meets music producers. That's also a topic we want to talk about next year. And that's also something which interests me a lot. And today we have a special guest. Jonas Johansson is his name, and he will tell us a little bit about, or a lot about, artificial intelligence and making music. So, Robert, what is your definition of artificial intelligence, AI? What comes into your mind when you hear this word?
Oh, that's a super difficult question.
Yeah, I know.
To be honest,
I know.
Like super difficult. What comes into my mind? The first thing that comes to my mind is movies, science fiction movies, where the AI is almost a persona and is talking to us or helping us. But I actually right now I am using in my daily studio work plugins that have some AI engine behind them, giving suggestions of parameters and stuff. So, But actually, I would love to talk to an AI friend. Why not?
Yeah, we will do this later. So we will take him into our conversation soon. As you can see, I have one tab here on Wikipedia. The first guy is afraid. No, but good that you write this word fear, because Jonas will tell us later that there is no reason for fear. So, I talked to him already a couple of weeks ago and joined his speech. And to spoiler a little bit, what I learned already is that we will not have a Terminator 2 situation in the future. And here on Wikipedia, I don't want to read the entire article, but a few words. So AI is intelligent demonstrated by machines as opposed by natural intelligence displayed by animals, including humans. That's already something where I say, wow, very interesting. And then the next part here is AI applications. And that's something I found quite interesting because I learned that it's already part of our lives. AI applications include advanced web search engines such as Google, recommendation systems such as YouTube, Amazon, and Netflix, understanding human speech, Siri, Alexa, self-driving cars like Tesla, and automated decision-making, and competing at the highest level in strategic game systems like chess and Go. I mean, what's the name of this chess computer? Was it Deep Blue?
I don't know.
Who defeated, was it Kasparov in the 90s? Something like that. So, Jonas is just confirming it. Kasparov he was. And yeah, that's already a very interesting article where we learn that, keywords Tesla, Alexa, Google. I mean, these elements are already
Part of the life.
yeah, huge parts of all our lives. I mean, so AI, here we are, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then I found something else. I found this Travis Scott thing. I don't know if you guys know about it. I just put it. Wait.
Show us.
Show us, yes. Just a second. Travis Scott. Here we go. So, I wait. Okay.
You can play this. I will be back in one.
Okay. So, I don't know if you heard about Travis Scott. I haven't heard about him before, but he seems to be quite popular. So he released a song which was completely made with artificial intelligence. And let's listen a little bit.
I know you talking trippy on my plane. I just want your first lane. I'm back to the shit and feel my pain. She got a crew on top of my chain. Wasted in the street like a pain. You see the diamonds in the lighter chain. They say I fucked the package like I'm Rain. I was the bitch on the plane. I know you got a flame, but that lack in the...
Yeah. This is already enough for me. But the story behind it is that this track was made entirely with AI, including the lyrics. And from what I understood is, and maybe Jonas can tell us a bit about the song as well, the lyrics make no sense at all. But apparently nobody really cares.
Should we bring in Jonas? Because actually it would be interesting what he says even before he gives us...
Yeah, first of all, I have something for you. So Unlimited says Mark Zuckerberg is turning everyone into virtual zombies, Robert. What do you think?
Look at me. I am...
You're the best example.
Zombie. I am. Yeah.
And then another one. Janie Cheshire, I preferred live when the TV just had 3 channels. But I love electronic music and your music, guys.
I love the best program was the test picture. Test build.
From 1 a.m. until 8 a.m.
That was the best program.
This is true, but yeah, a bit boring. Okay, so it's time for Mr. Jonas Johansson.
Hi everyone. Hi.
Hey, how do you do?
Applause.
I'm great. How are you guys?
Hello.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Perfect.
And where are you?
Well, I'm currently. We already talked about it earlier. Currently, I'm at the Baltic Sea. Preparing for a cozy New Year's celebration.
Cool. How's the weather at the Baltic Sea? Is it windy?
It's like I'd say light rain. So I guess normal weather for the area. But it's so nice. Like outside, you can hear the sea, which is just wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, what is the Marotopia show without talking about the weather? So the weather here in Western Germany is, by the way, Robert, it's pretty warm at the moment. We have 15 degrees here in this Cologne-Düsseldorf area. So you can move back to Germany and start a vineyard here.
Yes. Sounds like a plan. But actually, I still enjoy the sunshine here. We had 18 and sunshine, yeah. But if it's getting warmer in Germany, we can talk about coming back.
Well, supposedly, I read today that we had, I mean, it's actually quite sad if you think about it, but supposedly this year was like statistically 1 degree warmer than it should have been. So global warming has you covered, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a really, really hot summer, or a long one. But yeah, actually, Jonas, do you know this song? And did you heard about this?
I have not heard. I mean, I funnily enough, like I'm aware of Travis Scott. Obviously, I'm aware of a lot of music projects going on that involve AI. But I have to say, at this point, there's more than just a few. Obviously, I mean, artificial. That's also probably the first thing we should mention about artificial intelligence is it's far from a recent thing, and many discussions, like the discussion of the role of artificial intelligence in arts, that's been had since the 60s. So there's been a huge trend, and it has to be stated that artificial intelligence basically went from a fringe research field that had little to no results to show. Into a $1 billion industry with also incredible like scientific progress, and so there's been a lot of this thing, especially in recent years, where people use artificial intelligence. In many cases, it might. I'm not implying anything about Travis Scott by any means. In many cases, also probably as like a little marketing stunt. There's been a lot of also memes online. I don't know if you guys know them, like this AI wrote a Batman script or something like that. And in many cases, it's very obvious. I mean, obviously hard to prove, but in many cases, it's quite obvious that just somebody wrote a surreal text and then said an artificial intelligence wrote it, and so suddenly now it's interesting.
That's the same for actually in the music production thing right now. So many plugins are coming out with saying AI inside, and yeah, it's the new hot topic sale thing. If you want to sell something, say it's AI inside.
True. Very true.
And kind of like the worst, I guess, form of this is a lot of. I'm guessing less of them nowadays, because artificial intelligence, again, it's making progress like by the day. But especially a few years back, there's been a lot of stories of this, kind of startups that said we use artificial intelligence to do this or that. that just turned out to utilize call centers, in the global south, to kind of like crowdsource certain, like tasks to customers, but claiming, that's the funny thing, actually claiming it's artificial intelligence because it sells better as a service. And people think, oh, that's scalable, it's the future, we should use this service. Turns out, it's funny, actually, we live in a world where for at least some amount of time, people actually try to sell human work as AI work. That's how, that's how confident we are that there's a future to that.
So, I don't know, Mark, can you give us like a little introduction to what is AI, please?
Yes, I guess this is the point. This is the point where I pretty much, ruin this nice little get-together where we just have a casual conversation and turn this into a full-blown computer science lecture. So that's a new Robert. Let me just, no, wait, this is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to share my screen, and I wanted to share this little screen presentation I prepared. And can you see that one? All right.
Yes.
Okay. Then let's just. So pretty much, I'm going to give a little talk on artificial intelligence in music, and then what this might mean for the music industry. And we're gonna keep it light, obviously. And also, I think we're just gonna separate into 3 sections. And first of all, I'm gonna give a brief introduction, very brief, very, very brief, into what artificial intelligence is, particularly what most people mean when they say artificial intelligence. And I'm just gonna start just by, I hope the slide, you're just gonna let me know if the slide transitions don't show up on screen, right? Yeah. So before we go into this whole what is artificial intelligence thing, first of all, because I guess not too many people, for obvious reasons, are aware of what a computer actually is. And so artificial intelligence is a subset of computer science. And computing, I mean, we are all aware of computers. We're all aware of what computers do. But just on a very granular level, I want to highlight that everything a computer does and everything that any computer out there does, anything that's, technology, it is just a collection of switches, just like a light switch. Although it's not a mechanical switch like we see here on the left, but it's a so-called transistor. It's an electrical switch. So actually, it's kind of like every computer is just a row of switches where electricity controls a certain switch, where one electric circuit controls another electric circuit. And using these transistors, what computers then, like just building it up from the ground, are these are kind of like these logic modules you see here, where you have a certain signal, and obviously a signal in computer, we all know, many people know about binary, this idea of there's either electricity or not. And that's everything that kind of like the computer knows in terms of states. You take certain inputs and you chain them together with these kind of like logical gates, where here, for example, we see an AND gate. So this AND gate will only fire on this side. I don't know if you see my mouse.
No, we actually, no. We don't see the presentation.
You don't see the presentation?
No, we just see the start screen, the music machine.
That's
maybe you didn't start the presentation. I don't know. Now something.
I mean, in that case, I'm just going to use.
Better.
Okay, thank you. So again, like we have a light switch here. We have this transistor. That's what one kind of transistor looks like. And so this is kind of like the schematics of a computer, where you have you see this AND sign here to the left, right? This one would only fire, so it would only kind of like electricity would be on the circuit in the middle if there's electricity on A and B. If there's voltage on A and B, then there's also voltage going to the next box that has a 1 on it. And I mean, this to many people, I guess, like this sounds very abstract and kind of like confusing. But in terms of rules we understand quite intuitively what a computer does. It is literally nothing else than using these gates and these transistors, these switches, to explain to a machine in terms of like actual physical connections, or later than software, explain to a machine certain rules. What is the machine supposed to do? So, for example, I can say, if if this happens, then turn the light on. In a very simple term, like in a modern car or something, like if this button is pressed, then turn on the engine. So we all get this idea of rules, and if we understand rules, then we understand computers. And this, like, funnily enough, like if anyone's interested, like you can look into, for example, like this is called the ALU, and this is like a literal schematic of the only thing, or like not the only thing, but this is the thing that calculates in your computer. Like this is what a computer does on a basic level, just using these wires and these gates. And if you just follow them like one by one, like one connection by one, then you can actually understand what this computer is doing and how it's calculating with numbers. And so again, computers are just a way of like actualizing rules that you set. And through this, you can get any kind of, like, a computer can be used in any kind of machine, and just traditional computing or whatever, like just turning on the computer, using Photoshop, using music production software, like let's go to music, is literally just that, right? It's rules. So if I click on this, then this button should be highlighted, and then this website should pop up, or this plugin should start, or whatever. But now it gets a bit more complicated, because up until a certain point in computing, the problem was that you always had to state your problem. You always had to define the rules that you want to set for a computer. And that can get quite hard in certain situations. For example, if I want to program a machine that tells apart a cat from a dog, right? What do I tell the machine? I mean, I can obviously say, well, one of them is smaller and it has whiskers, and the other one barks, right? But these are very abstract concepts. The machine, the computer, does not understand abstract concepts. It just understands input, binary input. And if we, for example, look at these two pictures, right? For us, because this is just how our brains work, we automatically just spontaneously see, oh yeah, the picture on the left, that has a dog in it. And the picture on the right, that's just laundry, dirty laundry, right? But now if we have these pictures, and this is something that the machine can see, right? Because like you can input a picture into a computer just fine. But how do you now define the rules for the machine to tell apart this dog from this laundry basket, or all dogs from all laundry baskets? That's pretty much what I'm saying here. We're going to go a little bit later into different kinds of artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence, there's a lot of techniques, and one of them would actually be to try to teach the computer all of the rules to understand what a dog is. But we're not going to go into that, because this is like not a very productive research field at the moment. We're going to go into something that most of you might have heard, like you might have heard the term deep learning, or you might have heard the term neural networks. Those are, I guess, the big ones. And I'm going to just briefly explain what they are doing. And please stop me if you're bored, or if you have any questions, or if there's questions in chat, because
Yeah, first of all, I saw a couple of comments where people mentioned that they here and there couldn't follow. Can you maybe tell us two, three more sentences about this switch on, switch off thing? Because I think that's a very crucial part, that everyone, and you can explain it very well, that everybody gets a connection. And I think that's really very important, because from what I learned from you is that AI has its limits, and that no one has to be afraid of machines taking over us, from what we know now, and how on which concept the AI is based, correct? Mm-hmm. So can you maybe repeat in 2-3 sentences the connection between switch on, switch off, and how you can transfer it into let's say decisions, or that a Tesla car drives you from A to B?
I'm gonna feel free to kind of like separate that into two parts. That question into like the first one about the switching on, switching off. I'm gonna go into a bit more detail about that, and then I might want to talk a bit about artificial intelligence before we go into why it's not an immediate danger in terms of like Skynet and all these things happen. If that's okay with you.
Sure thing. You are the boss.
And
well, take your time and easy going. We want to understand it today.
Yeah, I apologize first of all for the pace and for maybe not getting the point across. But if we look at if you look back at what I showed in the slide, I don't know if you can currently see one slide, right? Yeah. Is it still on? What we see here looks more complicated than it actually is. I think understanding the switching on, switching off situation, I guess it's best to look at like mechanical machines first. For example, or like let's look at basic electric circuits, where, for example, if I open the fridge, like a breaker, like a switch is actuated, and the light is turned on in the fridge, right? And this is literally the easiest condition I can set. It's if I press the switch, or in that case, if I kind of like if I release the switch, light is supposed to turn on. And this is just done without a computer. It's just literally the circuit just opens or it closes, and depending on the state of the circuit, the light will go on or will go off. This is like the simplest kind of like machine in terms of electrics, like circuitry. And with a computer, in a way, it's the same. Just imagine not the physical switch in the fridge, but imagine like a switch that's also controlled through electricity. And then imagine kind of like, I guess, I'm kind of like hard pressed to find an example that's not too confusing, but just imagine kind of like these conditions to chain off on each other. So if we make a big jump and go, for example, into web design, into like websites, right? There's always, like conditions, like if I press this button, this event is about to happen.
Yeah.
Right? And
causality, right? So
yeah, exactly.
If this happens, this will happen as well. Correct?
Yeah, it's exactly. It's just like a chain of causation. But, and this is a very important thing, in most cases, in like traditional computer science, I will first of all define all the possible states of the system, and I will order them, right? So that if something happens, a certain other thing will go off. So I have the whole thing planned out from the start, and the machine is just following my bidding. I'm just saying, I the web designer, for example, or the web developer. Like I create a website, and then I want no, like eventualities or anything like I just want, if somebody presses like contact, I want my email address to pop up or whatever, right? This is a thing that will always happen and is predefined. And now if we move into artificial intelligence, sometimes we had this with the cat and the dog, right? If sometimes I am not able to tell the machine all of the rules beforehand, I need the machine to figure stuff out based on data that I give to the machine without defining the exact rules. Mm-hmm. And I do that, or one of the most efficient ways we figured out to do that is using statistics, using data science. I guess like those are almost interchangeable. Careful, but almost interchangeable. So using statistics, we can, from data, so from, for example, a picture, extrapolate what might be on that picture using something we call, and it's like a very umbrella term, artificial intelligence. I'm going to try to be slow about this, but I'm going to explain it one time, and then we can talk about it a bit more. But
No, that's very interesting and crucial now, because it teaches me that it's actually a pretty simple principle. And I was, of course, busy before the show and learned that the idea of AI came up even in 1955 already. And maybe they had this idea about the fridge door. And then I even learned that after a big hype and boom in the 50s, there was a so-called AI winter where everybody thought, oh no, this is not the thing. So forget about it. Let's forget about it. Right?
yeah, absolutely, completely right. There were actually two, or probably like by some definitions even more winters where everybody was just saying, well, this artificial intelligence thing, it's not going to go anywhere, and they started to pull funding, and it was a whole thing. So you had this kind of like ups and downs where people were suddenly, in the limelight, and everybody was like, artificial intelligence, that's the future. And then just went back to, it's just, it's just a party trick. And then back and forth. And now it kind of like exploded. Like a few years ago, I'd say the late 2000s, where a certain technology called deep learning was like there was specific scientific progress in the late 2000s that just took this technology and made it extremely productive and extremely good at figuring things out. But you were also very right in saying that artificial intelligence is from like the idea dates back probably as long as we can think. We theoreticized, like the artificial intelligence, like a machine that thinks for itself or whatever. But what I'm about to teach you is literally, I'm always bad with like calculating back, but it's more than 50 years old. Let's just leave it at it's more than 50 years old.
Yeah, much more. I mean, 55, that's 65 years. That's a long time. It's crazy. I didn't know about this. You always think that it's something new and futuristic, and no, it's not. And but I saw once again in the comments, people are a bit frightened, actually. And we must remove this Terminator 2 dystopian scenario with this show here tonight.
I'm gonna get to that because it's a very dear topic to me. Not in terms of like taking the fears of people away from AI. There's some reasonable like reservations to be had about artificial intelligence, but they have nothing whatsoever to do with artificial intelligence gaining consciousness and kind of like throwing humanity under the bus in any. I mean, I'm not saying that it's scientifically like impossible, but if you made a list of things to worry about, it would land like near the bottom, I'd say, for now. Like in terms of where we are currently, it's very, very improbable for it to happen soon. It's a bit opinion based, obviously. Like it's a science fiction thing, but it is on the other hand, like it is a science fiction thing. We thought about artificial intelligence for too long before we actually figured out how to actually use it. And so we have all these ideas already implanted in our heads, like ingrained into our society that predate the actual technology. And so we think, oh yeah, Terminator, but at the time of the Terminator movies, artificial intelligence, I mean, it was able to play chess, but
But maybe one because I was reading about that the military is actually experimenting with this, and they give drones the possibility to decide themselves who to kill.
Yeah, and here we have it. Yeah.
With AI.
That's the dangers I want to highlight. That's the dangers I want to highlight. And I guess kind of like the red thread throughout that, throughout all of the things that I want to, like dangers I want to highlight, is it's always going to be humans being irresponsible. Like, for example, like if you want to, obviously there's a big problem in, having autonomous drones kind of like find a target to kill and then, make an own decision whether to kill a target or not. But again, like we can't really say that artificial intelligence is dangerous. No. Humans and the military industrial complex, that's quite dangerous. And obviously they will make use of and I guess you could say that about all technology. Like you could say the same thing about cars, because cars and tanks, like in a way, they're the same thing. And just before we go to that, because I want to also say a very important thing about different types, I guess, of artificial intelligence, or a very important classification. I just briefly, just to get the math out of the way and we all can have fun and relax and unwind. I just want to, because I just thought it's very fascinating, and I want to highlight to everyone, right? Even if you feel intimidated by any of, like this kind of like numbers and kind of like the lingo around artificial intelligence, please, it's not, if you just, I mean, obviously in this kind of like a talk, it's hard to follow. But if you just, go online, there's incredible resources. My favorite thing that I always go back to actually is a video by 3 Blue 1 Brown. It's 3 Blue 1 Brown. It's a mathematics YouTuber that does brilliant animations on artificial intelligence, like on mathematical topics. But he did a brilliant, I think, 2-part series on artificial intelligence. That's just one example, because that again will also be intimidating. But just step by step, if you are interested in this, it's totally learnable, completely learnable. And I just want to make sure that nobody, just looks at this and it's like, no, that's kind of like weird mathematics mumbo jumbo. And, I will never figure that one out. No, you will be able, I promise you, just, take it one step at a time. But now for like the more keen and maybe those who, are a bit more interested in the topic, I'm just going to briefly run through what do we do now. So we have a picture, right? We have a picture of a dog. In this case, I mean, this is like a simplified, this is just what the machine sees, like a small like section of the picture with the dog. But we know, like the machine only can see ones and zeros. And through ones and zeros, you can, for example, also represent numbers as ones and zeros and binary. And so you can also, for example, with a picture, black and white picture, you could say every single pixel of the picture has a certain number value. If it's 1, that's white. And if it's 0, that's black. And all, the grayscale kind of shades are in between with like 0.9, 0.95 or something, right? This is what we give the machine, because then the machine can see the picture. We can input a picture into a machine, right? And we can not only do it with this kind of like weird thing, but we can also do it with this picture of a dog here on the left. It's a bit pixelated, but it's still a dog, right? But now, and this is the interesting thing, like how do we create this kind of like a light switch that, turns on if it's shown a picture of a dog, but it stays off if the picture just has a laundry basket in it, or a cat, or even a wolf, right? Different kind of like levels of difficulty. And so we have neural networks that do this job. Very sorry about the squiggly lines. I think it's still in German. And what neural networks, this is one of the schools, or kind of like one of the camps in artificial intelligence, that instead of trying like working with rules to figure out how to do such a thing as like learning chess or identifying dogs, they said, why not do what the human brain does? And what does the human brain do? Well, we have all these neurons in our head. And the interesting thing is, if you put us in like an MRT and you look at what our brain does, if we see a dog, then always the same neurons will fire, like they will go off. There will be like a small, like kind of like a small, electric impulse in these neurons. And for some reason, we don't know exactly how or why or whatever, but for some reason, this creates the mental image of a dog in our head. And so we see a dog, these neurons fire, and we're like, dog, right? And they were like, can we teach a machine to do this? And what they did is incredibly amazing, because it's so smart and so stupid at the same time. Because what they did was they created this thing. This would be like a fully connected neural network. And to the left here, you can imagine like these square boxes, right? They have the values of all the pixels. So we just have like a long row, and you see down here with the dot, dot, dot. That means, like, imagine you have thousands of these boxes, right? And they just have a single value in them. And this value corresponds to a certain degree of whiteness. So we have the whole picture in this network. We have it in here, right? This is what we give the network. It's the input layer. So we call these vertical like arrays of boxes, we call them layers. We go to the next layer. And this layer has neurons. What are neurons? They're nothing else than what we also have in the input box. They are just a vessel. Each of them is a vessel that contains a number between 1 and 0, because that's exactly what the neurons in our brain also do. They also have like a gradual kind of level of electricity. So like we have certain neurons, if we see a dog, they will, fire all the way to 1. It's just, I mean, it's not binary terms in that sense, but it's very comparable, just this very specific thing. I'm not saying brains and computers are the same. Very important distinction. But so what we have here is this neuron. It takes a number, or it can take any number between 1 and 0 and just store it in here. And what we do now, and this is, I feel like it's super stupid and it's amazing. I just randomize all of these vessels. So I just put 1s and 0s haphazardly in there, right? And not 1s and 0s, sorry, but also 1s and 1.2 and 1.3 and all these numbers. And then we look kind of like we just imagine like a signal kind of passing through from the input through these neurons all the way to the right to the output layer. We look at what turns up on the output layer. And if it's close to a 1, we're going to say there's a dog in there. And if it's close to a 0, we're going to say there's no dog in there. And now you might wonder, wait, where's the math in this? Like, this can't work, right? It's just a signal wandering from left to right. How would this literal connection of dots, of numbers, how would this actually, see a dog or like identify a dog in a picture? And the way you do that, and now comes the thing, like the secret sauce of artificial intelligence, is data. And not just a little, but a lot of it. And what do? Is you train this network. So you put in a picture of a dog on the left, and you let it run through, and you look what comes out. But you will have, because at this stage, if there's a dog or no dog in the picture. So you're going to look at the output, and you compare it, to what should be there. If you put a dog in and it says 0.1, you're going to, figuratively give it a little slap and say, no, neural network, that's wrong. There should be a 1 in there, right? And what you do is you do this with so many dog pictures. This is what machine learning, or like this is how neural networks work. You train them, and there's a little bit more of maths involved. And I'm going to tell you, like, if you want to look into that, and if you want to look into gradient descent and how to actually train a neural network, I guess I have to kind of like postpone that talk for a minute. For now, we're just going to stay at this point. What we do is we take a lot of data, and we push it through this network, repeat it. Every time the network is right, we're going to give it a cookie. Let's say, like, we're going to reward it, in a sense. Every time it's wrong, we're going to punish it. These are maybe a bit like some artificial intelligence practitioners or theorists, they would be like, no, that's not that. But just so you understand, in very simple terms, we put a lot of data through this neural network, and we see what's on the other side, and we just look if it's right or if it's wrong. This is called supervised learning, because we supervise the network. And in the end, if we do this with enough dog pictures, at some point, if I put a new dog picture in, a dog picture that's never been in a training set, it will still give a very good guess. And not a very good guess, but like it will be, in many cases, like 99.9% accurate in determining what's in the picture. And now we, like, I guess, opened the Pandora's box of artificial intelligence, because now, I'm just going to skip these slides. If we have this, like, sorry.
I have to make one little side comment.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was you who showed it, but what about this dog picture with the little sign in front which says egg?
Then
the AI is freaking out and confused, right?
Yeah.
So that's also very interesting, and also an aspect I really liked. And maybe it can also remove the fear a little bit, that when you put the sign in front of the dog which says egg, then the AI says it's an egg and not a dog,
like,
right?
Exactly. Depending on, there's always a very interesting thing about this technique. I mean, there's additions to that, but the very simple technique I showed you has a big problem. Nobody knows why the system knows whether there's a dog in the picture or not. Like, nobody knows how this thing actually works. Because what you did is you trained it, and what you see is all these random numbers. But the thing is, nobody knows in this specific part of or like the specific application how it works. And so this egg and dog thing is a very interesting thing where, for example, my favorite example that happened with artificial intelligence was they trained a neural network to try to detect skin cancer, right? And how they trained it by using pictures of moles that were not skin cancer and pictures of moles that were cancerous. But the problem is, whenever like you go to a doctor and they take a picture of a mole because it might be cancerous or because it is, or often, they will put a ruler next to it, right? So in the picture, you can actually tell how big it is because it's important information. And when they used the data set to train their neural network, they forgot to control for the ruler. So they were really, really good in the data set. And they said, we have now an app, you can use your phone to find out if you have skin cancer. Everyone's like, wow, great. And then people tried it out and, they got wrong results, turned out in the end, or like only a little bit later. And it turns out the neural network was just looking for rulers. And if you give them a picture of like a skin with a ruler, it doesn't matter what else is on there. It doesn't even matter if there's any mole. It will just say cancerous. And if there's no ruler in the picture to be found, see, like this is one of the dangers we can talk about in artificial intelligence. But it also shows you how stupid it actually is.
Yeah, and that's a very, very important aspect, which maybe most of the people are not aware of, right?
Yeah, and now I guess we can finally, before I just one point I make before we go to the whole Skynet thing.
Yes,
is what
one was asking already.
Yeah. The age of implementation. This is what the AI scientist and now venture capitalist Kai-Fu Lee wrote in his book. He calls it the age of implementation is what we're in now in terms of artificial intelligence. So we're not in the age of discovery. There's obviously progress made, but in terms of this particular thing I showed you and like a kind of like more complex thing called deep learning, but you now get the gist of it. It's very, very good at doing certain things, and like doing things where we don't have the rules, but we actually have the thing figure out itself how to work with data. And so now people that are not the smartest minds in the world, but even people as like mediocre programmers as myself, we can now use artificial intelligence to solve our everyday problems. This is what he calls the age of implementation. So the big players in artificial intelligence right now and in the near future are not going to be, like universities with like the best researchers, but it's just the people who will implement it in the smartest and like most creative and I guess most productive ways. And now this one thing I wanted to say is there's a kind of like a philosophical classification of artificial intelligence. Where this one thing is called like a general artificial intelligence or a generalized, like a GAI. And the other one is like a specific purpose-built AI. that can do a very specific thing, and you can often also transfer it to other very specific tasks, but it cannot do a task that's completely different from the thing it was trained for. And we have a lot of artificial intelligence, and we also have incredible progresses in transfer learning. So taking artificial intelligence, using it for different purposes than it was trained for. We have unsupervised learning, where I don't have to be there and be like, this is a dog, this is not a dog, blah blah blah, but the system actually figures stuff out itself. We have this, but we do not have a generalized artificial intelligence that actually gets a completely new task and
the master.
We have nothing like that. It's a theoretical construct. It might come around. It could come around at any point in the future, not too near future, but it could come around. But it's not something we should worry about. It's the same, many things could theoretically, hypothetically happen. We could all get hit by a car tomorrow. I really hope we will not, and it's not too likely. But it's, and in terms of artificial intelligence, people, they kind of use this term for all of it, but it's important to keep in mind these two subsets and these two categories. Yes, we have this artificial intelligence. Yes, it's scary how good it is. We don't have this one, though. And this one is the one you should worry about, gaining consciousness and taking over the world. Maybe not even that. This is also my personal position. Maybe, it wouldn't have the same kind of selfish colonizing tendencies that us humans have. But I guess, science fiction. We can talk about science fiction, but
as a question from my side, if an AI can understand language and we give the AI that understands language or the meaning of language and give the AI Wikipedia to read, what would come out of this?
I guess the problem in this kind of scenario is, you said, for AI to understand the meaning of something, because it can. What AI? This is actually a point we could make about the Travis Scott video we showed earlier and the nonsense lyrics. AI, especially a project done by the company called OpenAI. AI is very good at inferring kind of the meaning from sentences. It's very good at writing stories. It's very good at also getting the sentiment of, for example, you can put in 3 sentences of a novel. There's a really interesting thing that you can play. It's called AI Dungeon. AI Dungeon. It's like this, these text-based adventure games. I guess they were before my time, mostly, but they're still around. Where it's open bottle or go to the left, and it's just a text adventure, an interactive thing. They have this, it's called AI Dungeon. They have this, it's completely based on artificial intelligence. It's crazy how good it is, how it reacts to your prompts. It tells you, you're a detective sitting at your office, and you're like, okay, I jump out of the window. And it says, you jump out of the window. There's shards of glass everywhere. You look around. It's completely original context generated from basically an AI being fed so much information, so many books, that it's really good at kind of producing language. But it does not understand language. So yes, you can get a very good, for example, a chatbot. So you can get something I'm not aware of any. We have one developed at my research institute. There's big ones by Google. You can have a chatbot, and you can have a very impressive conversation with a chatbot, almost Turing test passing conversations with a bot that it read all of Wikipedia. It also read all books. It read the whole Google library. So it can have a conversation with you, but it's it's an empty shell. It is replicating certain structures it was able to identify in language to impress
like a display, right?
Yeah. But it's not intelligent. And this is a very important distinction to be made. So understand is not a word you can use in regard to artificial intelligence. And one thing we talked about this when I had this talk with Mark in Mönchengladbach. The thing is that artificial intelligence is a terrible name. and this is also a discussion from way back in the 60s, artificial intelligence was the wrong name, and a better name would be computational rationality. Because, first of all, artificial intelligence is not intelligent. It can solve rational problems, but it's not intelligent if we want intelligence to mean anything. It's not, like it doesn't actually have understanding of something. It's very good at identifying structures and using these structures for certain purposes. So artificial intelligence, it sounds very scary, and this also might have contributed to this whole, anxiety about AI taking over. But we should have probably, gone with computational rationality, and nobody would give a shit. Probably we wouldn't have had this talk today, because everybody would that's some computer thing. I'm not interesting.
Okay, shall we listen to some music to just listen to some music?
Yes, please, because I'm very sorry, chat. I'm very sorry, everyone watching us. This is like a monologue right now, but let's listen to music, and maybe we can get into the more fun part of it.
All good. I mean, it's very interesting what you are saying, and we are not a comedy show. We want to display our chats with friends in the public, and this is now one of these. So all good. Okay, let me share something, and then you can tell us something about it. Just a second. Zack. All right. Here we are. So, Emily Howell, track 1. Tell us something about before I play it.
Yeah. So this is actually a very, very old project, and I'm very sorry I don't remember the name of the composer. It is an American composer who used very early on used artificial intelligence to compose music. I kind of skipped now this whole part in my presentation where we talk about how an AI can actually compose something. But what we do, very simple, in simple terms, you feed an AI all of the compositions you can find as MIDI scores, and then you just let it output its own MIDI scores, kind of based on create something that might be in the set I just showed you. So create a composition, a musical composition. So what we now will hear is a piano piece performed by a human player. I'm pretty sure it's not a MIDI track, because it's quite sounds quite well, but it's composed by an artificial intelligence based on certain composition that it heard already. So it's new. It's entirely new. It's not just take this bar from this composition, take this bar from this composition. It's new, but it took the style of kind of classical piano music, or I guess it's late romantic kind of Camille Saint-Saëns style classic music, and yeah.
Let's have a listen.
Let's have a listen.
Robert, you are the musician here.
Yeah.
So tell us.
Yeah, actually, I think it's super boring and completely soulless. It's you can hear there are some rules, but there's actually real music lives from surprising moments where you have contrasts, where you get from one feeling to the next and then maybe brought back. And here was nothing of this. It was empty. We just heard arpeggios going back and forth. So yeah, that's my yeah. I think it was super boring and soulless. But my that's just my my view.
That's a great transition to the Grimes article.
Yeah, Robert, look at this.
Yeah.
What Grimes says. What
Actually, yeah, I think if you listen to general pop music or like functional music, I would even say probably yes. I think future pop music don't need humans at all. If pop music is just there for being listened in the background or while you drive your car or you go up, I don't know. This kind of music can be completely replaced, I think, in the future quite soon. It's my personal feeling, or maybe German Schlager, because it's like you have clear rules and it's the same of the same and the same of the same, or even
techno music.
Yeah, techno music can be they break rules. But EDM, when you have this typical 8 bars or 16 bars, and then this happens and this happens, and then comes the breakdown, and then blah blah blah, this horrible boring shit can be replaced by AI maybe in the future as well. But I'm pretty sure humans come with new ideas and they will break all the rules all the time. And that's how we develop as humans, actually.
Yeah, now we are at a very interesting and crucial point. So it's not about making it, it's about the spirit behind it, choosing some ingredients or also going or making a certain style according to a trend or to a zeitgeist. And this is something, Jonas, please correct me if I'm wrong, which AI is not going to handle, right?
I will say I agree with you to when it comes to the point of saying, if I train, so especially the kind of like artificial intelligence we talked about now, and the one we know right now, is we train it with a data set, and we actually wanted to create something, that wouldn't kind of stand out in a data set. It did a bad job if it did anything creative. That's like the funny thing about actually using it for artistic purposes in that very, in that framework where we actually want an entire composition just based on a certain input. Because obviously, and this is, I think, also all artists that use AI at the moment agree, you don't want AI to, perfectly replicate the data set. It actually gets more interesting as kind of like a randomizer tool, in terms of you want artificial intelligence to break. We saw in the Travis Scott video, I thought it was quite interesting. He used all these actually old video compression glitches in the music, in the visuals, right? And I guess that kind of points towards also he wanted nonsense lyrics. I told you, I don't know from when the video is, but I told you, if you want lyrics that make sense produced by an AI, that's totally that's been around for a while. You want it to make, you don't want it to make sense. You don't want the AI to be perfect. You want it to be a little bit flawed. And these flaws create, I think, at least sometimes to the observer, something that you might kind of mistake for artistic intent. So I completely agree with you in terms of AI cannot be an artist in a sense that the word still makes sense, the word artist still makes sense, then AI cannot be an artist, at least for now, because it has no relation to the world. It is a mathematical object. It can be an instrument in certain regards. I think we'll talk about that a little bit later, using AI more as an instrument. Or it's it can be something like a music generator, but it cannot be an artist, because art needs art needs intelligence, and AI
Okay,
needs intelligence.
so the artist will stay. She's wrong. The artist will stay, but the artist will become more and more a programmer, as Robert and I have made it already since 30 years. I mean, I just talked with Robert about it before the show. When I started to make music in the early 90s, the computer was my main instrument. And normal people or people who are not involved into the techno scene, they sometimes ask me, yeah, but what are you doing? I mean, you are not playing an instrument. So what is it about making music? And I more and more have the impression that people like Robert and I started something 30 years ago, which is happening more and more and more, that the musician is, I mean, one choice, it's not the ultimate choice, but the musician is more and more becoming a programmer. Because maybe a few out there are not aware of this. Actually, almost every piece of music which is currently coming out, even classical music, is a product of a computer editing process. Even classical recordings are cut at the end of the day, more or less. And this is maybe an aspect not everyone is aware of, right?
Yeah. I also wanted to say, like, back to the, like, will the artist become obsolete in terms of right? We have different purposes for listening to music, and we have kind of like the more commercial aspect of it, like this idea of, for example, somebody wants music for his advertisement, and this is a thing I think will very probably have the AI take over this market in many cases.
Sound alike when somebody wants something make me something like happy. I want, right? You hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, these car commercials already. You probably know these. It's mostly car commercials, I think, where they use a song, that from the radio, but it's not quite that song, and it's obviously made so that kind of sounds like that song. I remember like a German company did with this Bilderbuch song Machine, where it sounds exactly like that song, but they didn't want to pay the rights for it, and so they kind of like replicated it. This is a great use. I mean, great in a cynical way, obviously. A great use for AI, because here it's not about artistic integrity. It's literally about we want to sell the product, and music helps.
But is she maybe a little bit right then? I mean, yeah, we are only talking about complexity, right? So it's interesting. It's becoming interesting now, our conversation, because I mean, Robert and I, we are also talking and thinking about what's coming up next, and I was always under the impression and paradigm maybe as well that AI can become a tool for us, like a DAW, or like a plug-in synth, or like an app which tells you the tuning of a song, or the anatomy of a chord. I mean, or Melodyne, a program where you can, for those who don't know, who can take an audio file, and then you can change chords and tunings and all this stuff. An application where even the creator of the application said 15 years ago, forget about it, it will not happen.
Yeah.
So it's becoming very interesting now, because we have a future look into our future now. So tell
I
us.
guess, yeah, we're
what's
at the
going to
last.
happen.
We're at the last stage of a 1 hour presentation that's been going on for 1.5 hours. No, we're still, yeah.
Don't worry.
But
There's
we now have the last section where we want to talk about the music industry, and I think that this was the perfect segue. The music industry will surely change. In my opinion, it will surely change, and it already is changing and already has changed due to artificial intelligence being being more productive and being more accurate and being better at doing certain things. I don't think, when Grimes goes out and says, I haven't read the article, but I think if Grimes says, these are AI will take away, the jobs of musicians, she's probably talking, about actual musicians. So she's talking about very specific things, like maybe the performers or the songwriters or people like, and then we come back to like a certain art form. But I guess in all, not just in music, but in all different kind of industries, we will not see, I think, entire jobs just going away, or we will see that. But more like large fields of tasks, and certain tasks of being a musician will not be a part of the future. Certain good things that I think most musicians will be very happy about, like filing taxes, that will be a thing of the past, like so soon. This is something that's, it's a part of being a musician if you're real, and this is a thing that AI can take over easily, right? Also technical things and I'm now gonna probably ruffle some feathers, but technical things like mastering in some very specific cases might be taken over. It's still an art form. I'm not saying it can't be an art form or something, but it might, there's certain aspects of it. There's things like, for example, you mentioned the tool thing. Things like, for now you need a sound engineer in many cases where, for example, you have a vocal recording that sounds bad. You give it to a professional sound engineer or to professional mixer, professional sound guy, that finds certain frequencies that are too resonant, does the EQing work, it does very specific things. And that is a job that now exists, but in the future, more musicians, and this is the democratizing power of AI, more musicians will be able to just do that with a tool that uses AI to do specific things, subtasks, like find the resonant frequency in here, or make this vocal, remove the ground noise, something like that, which is not the gist of creativity, but more the tools you need to get to a certain point. And I think there's these two ways. There's a more cynical way to look at AI and its potential impact on the music industry, and there's the more optimistic thing where you say, well, maybe it just will empower more people to make music and to be able to create music, because it just makes it so much easier in certain regards. But to be careful in terms of
Robert, you are thinking. I can feel it from the distance. Share your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I mean, Jonas is definitely right. Right now, I tested almost all the AI mastering services because it's interesting, and because I am also a mastering engineer, and as you know, even SoundCloud has an automatic mastering service now. There's the thing with mastering is there's a technical mastering, and there is a mastering where you bring in the experience and the taste of the mastering engineer. So the technical mastering can be done by this AI for sure, but not my taste. Yeah, maybe
now
not
comes
now.
the point.
Not yet.
Now comes the point. He can't wait to add your sentence.
No, I agree. I agree in terms of like this was also what I said earlier, and like in all of these certain like crafts around music, like it's very important to not devalue them and like to turn them into like a binary task where we can just define rules and say, well, this is a good master, like this is what a master is supposed to sound like, and then just have the machine do it. But taste is involved. And for example, like there is, like you could, for example, say, well, if I were to take all of your masters, right, and I input them at some point in the future, because mastering services as of now, like they're really bad. I haven't used like Lander in a while or anything. Like but everybody, I guess that is serious about mastering will agree it works for like sending out a demo, but you wouldn't. Yeah. I guess they're not quite there yet, because it's just they need to learn more. They need to be improved also on like a code level, on a certain level. There is probably like a thing where it can learn tastes, it can learn a certain intent and say this is probably a master that you would like. But again, also in mastering, I think it's way more useful as a tool. So as a mastering engineer, right, I can have the thing prepare all that I would do and do all the parameters, and then I just listen to it, and I am then, the ultimate decision maker. I am the person that says, well, this is a good master, but I'm not feeling it, and I will change these parameters, or I will completely do it from scratch. But I use it as a tool, and the cool thing about that again is that then, I mean, it's bad and good in a way. It's bad because it kind of like it might devalue a craft to a certain point. It is good in the way that it empowers way more musicians to actually, get into, or it might empower musicians to get into, mastering their own recordings, and it gives all these powerful tools that are potentially very helpful. And Lander is a mastering, like an online, I think it's lander.com mastering service. You just upload a WAV file and it's like over your raw mix, and it like masters it. Yeah. Or even, there's a more, there's a better reply already in chat, I see.
But we just back to AI. We have also AI and Spotify, right? Where AI is somehow giving me suggestions what I maybe like to listen to in next somehow.
Do you know what the AI is actually scanning? Is it just text or is it the waveforms?
Okay, this actually goes a lot into the details. I don't think it scans the waveforms. I think it's very tag-based, but it's not just tags, it's also the metadata. So it's not just the genre tags, which is one part of the metadata, but it's also the composer, it's the year it was made in, and just from all this metadata, it will find certain patterns in your music tastes, and like stuff like, for example, already with the tags, the recommendation system is quite efficient, right? Because if I don't know, I like to listen to crust punk after work, then Spotify is quite like it's quite simple to find out about that for an algorithm, because it just if I listen to a certain style of music when I'm in a certain place, then it's very easy for an algorithm to be like, oh yeah, probably they will now enjoy music from the genre they're mostly listening to. And then there's some scary stuff happening as well, where the algorithms from just like metadata and stuff, there's no personal data of mine in Spotify, and still I would bet you money that using only the data of like when I listen to music, what I listen to, and when I listen to specific music or something like that, it can have incredibly detailed knowledge about me. That just comes from the fact that it has so much data of other users and of me, and it again, without the algorithm actually being like knowing what it's doing, it probably has some very, very intimate knowledge about you, and it will sometimes be quite good at recommending music, but And here we come to the DJ, which like is also like an artistic profession. It will not replace, a certain like a recommender or like
because the DJ is the selector.
Because
and that's the point. I just have to
Intent.
think about the suggestions of Spotify when I'm editing my playlist. And let's say 1 suggestion out of 10, I say, yeah, thanks for this. So AI is a helping tool, and we don't have to be afraid of it, I think. And just one thing, because I displayed already this Elvis song. Before I play it, I just have to say that when I heard it for the first time, I was like, "Pooh, thanks God, Grime is wrong," because this. I don't want to spoil it. Let's listen to it, okay? Let's have a listen.
Mm-hmm.
From dusty tanny, almost scarf, but the lip hitch tells the heart. When my toe slips, when my health is decline. At last, when he woke up with a mind. From dusty days, when you help, from Goethe to the Pitcherack. When he sees he was the gunners, they complete. At last, he woke up in his soul. His answer is fixed, and we know that with a heart that never sleeps, let us live. To some pain of life, but some see my same life. No story has not ended. My body's
Okay,
Yes,
and this
Robert.
this song was made by completely by an AI, also recreating the voice or the singing of Elvis, right?
Yeah, like addressing the comments like on the compression to filtering. The very impressive thing about what this thing does, or how like this is also a project by OpenAI I mentioned earlier that did the GPT-3, the very impressive language this company OpenAI, what they wanted to do, or what they are doing with a project called Jukebox, is they take music as an audio file. So not with the Emily Howell piano example earlier, where it's just MIDI. They take an actual, waveform and train an autoencoder to kind of like, right? You give it 50. This was an Elvis song created by an AI because it was given like, I don't know, like a few. There's probably hundreds of Elvis songs. It's just given them like in this very specific data set. And it sounds so terrible. Like one of the reasons it sounds so terrible is that because like we're talking about huge amounts of data that goes into a process like that. And so they had to down compress it. And then they created a compressed song, and using a very sophisticated algorithm, like kind of like extrapolated what a song would sound like that would sound like this terrible mess when it's compressed. And I'm not talking like MP3 compression. I'm talking like, but still, and I think this was why Mark showed the example. Like, still, to me, that's scary, impressive. It just gives me all kinds of feelings to listen to a song like that and be like, this, it's insane. With the times we're living in.
I found it awful.
It is. It's still awful, but
it reminds me a bit on this track we listened to in the beginning with the nonsense lyrics. So,
But actually, it's interesting that things are going like that. This is possible.
Yeah, that's
Already.
and I guess it's kind of like, to me, like this particular song, I also think it has kind of like, especially in being so terrible, this kind of like gives it a certain quality in my eyes. Again, with the thing like, if I want to use AI in music, I mostly use it to make weird mistakes that are then interesting in their own right. But it kind of like, if you look at it as a song, I feel like it's ugly and bulky in the way that we would probably, look at early computers, where it's like, okay, so, now you have this huge room full of like gears and like magnetic tape, and all of this is just, to add like to calculate like 17 plus 4. It's crazy at first, and to be like, yeah, well, this, I mean, obviously there's some, some promising things in the future, but for now, this is like, come on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the future pop music will sound maybe like totally amazing for normal people. And they will like it.
I like the idea of AI music being nothing but a genre and a fad in a way. You know what I mean? Like, because we talked also with the Travis Scott thing, probably or very likely in 10 years, this whole idea where you actually, are vocal about using AI and not use it as a very like limited tool, but you actually, like this, or not probable, but maybe, it's just going to be a fad. And we think back of it, like we think of, I don't know, like bro step in the late 2000s. You know what I mean? Like it's a completely weird trend that took over pop music for a hot second, and then everybody's like, yeah, that was a thing we did in the late like early 20s. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's leave it at that. Yeah, because again, there's promises here, and I think AI as a tool is incredible. We could talk about this. Like I particularly could talk about this for weeks. It's also related to my PhD research at university, looking at how we could use AI, or how we can use AI in creative processes.
A question from my side, as you are, we never worked together, but I know from Mark that you are also a singer. Did you use any AI thing for your personal composing work in any way?
I have. Yes. No. It's, sorry, just getting a call right now. Actually, I have. It's not in the way. Just not in the way that probably like everyone's thinking. Because when I write lyrics, I sometimes write lyrics in German. I sometimes write lyrics in English, and in the creative process, or even sometimes like if I'm missing a word or something, I like to use DeepL.com to translate certain phrases, or to actually use the engine. It's like Google Translate, and just like Google Translate, it uses deep learning to translate bits of text. So not just simple words, but entire phrases. And it's uncannily good. It's uncannily good at translating text. You might, I mean, it's not that obscure, I think. But and so in a way, I'd say I already, use AI as a tool in my composition. But because I work mostly as a top liner, a lyricist, a vocalist, also as an instrumentalist and producer a bit. But because I work in this regard, for now I use it maybe for inspiration, and also for like in very particular regards, like translating a phrase, or thinking of certain words, or but I'm not using it in the way that I'm just saying like, just spit out some lyrics based on this or that. I used for my earlier compositions, I used Lander a few times, again, like for just having like a rough master or something. But yeah.
So, and now to the good news. So we are approaching the end of our show, but the good one is, of course, for the end. Mouse on Mars. So, do you know anything about how this project was realized?
I do actually. I talked to them. I met them. There is still the possibility of future research collaboration with Mouse on Mars, based on this album here, or based on the song we probably will listen to in a few seconds. What this album, it's very, in my opinion, like very recommended. It's a great album, musically speaking, and also conceptually speaking, because what they did, and they are obviously like pioneers and very like creative in the use of technology, both like conceptual and technical regards. What they did on this album was they thought about kind of like, it's called anarchic AI, so AAI, and they thought about kind of like, the more the broader implications of artificial intelligence and stuff like that. And what they basically did was they used an engine called Krach AI to that they co-developed to create and this is like, for me as an AI researcher and a vocalist, very interesting, to create an AI singer. And this AI singer is heard on this album, or in this particular track that we are going to listen to right now.
Okay.
Mhm.
I love that song. It's a great album. What I talked a little bit about, like they used an artificial singer. That, by the way, is the voice of Louis Tsudesuke. It's like a professor from the United States, a longtime collaborator of them, and it's kind of like a collaborative project, creative writing about and like theoretical writing about artificial intelligence, music, and then this artificial voice based on his voice. It's just, check it out, read about the album. It's my opinion, it's a great work of art.
Robert, what's your feeling?
Yeah, it was interesting. I will check this album out and we'll give it a close listen.
I like the track. But it's not pure AI, right? So they used AI as a tool, correct?
They used AI as a very limited tool in that regard. I'm actually not sure right now if they used it in other aspects of the music production as well. I'm sure some AI empowered tools are all like everywhere in your DAW, but they used it mostly for this specific thing with artificially generated voice, like AI singer. That was in this music the main point.
Yeah, the track made me really curious. I will check it out on some streaming platform or maybe buy the vinyl, because I think they're actually from Düsseldorf as far as I remember. Anyway, Data Collaborate, one member of our community, has a question for you. So Jonas, the question goes to you. How is the feeling of generated created music, like you coded in AI with some inserted sounds, like various patterns, 5FX, 5 drum loops, etc., etc.? At the moment, there are many new people, artists, entrepreneurs, musicians, and coding artists who are producing AI-generated music. So very unexpected stuff. What do you say?
I'm guessing the question is, so if it's like the first part, what's the feeling of generated or like AI generated music is, I guess we listen to very specific examples now. And again, there's lots and lots and lots of projects already out there. And it's very hard to put a certain style on it. I think the feeling that's mostly at the moment achieved with like AI generated or AI augmented music. I think the feeling you want right now is, again, maybe kind of like a tad bit of uneasiness, because, you know, like it asks all these questions. You ask yourself all these questions about like, what does it mean to be human? Like, will the machine one day? And it creates this kind of like maybe a scary ambience. Also, you want flaws, like it's highlighting certain flaws. That's also when I talked earlier about AI maybe in the future being a fad of the past. That's what I'm talking about, like a very specific affect I want to create using AI in music. This is the feel in like very broad terms, because like, again, depending on what music you train your network with, that's what you get. So there's not like, AI music doesn't necessarily sound like the song we now listen to. It also doesn't necessarily sound like Elvis Presley. You can use all kinds of music to create all kinds of weird compositions and weirdly impressive compositions. I guess at the moment, what people want to listen to, because it's still kind of new, it feels new to the public. What they want to listen to right now is maybe like a bit of like a scary touch, like Travis Scott, what he tried with what he did with the glitches, the video glitches, and these kind of like old school like MS-DOS style or like BIOS style, you know, like text backgrounds. It kind of like, you know, gives the feeling of computers glitching out. It's a very specific aesthetic, I guess, and that's what I would describe the feeling of this kind of music as. Yeah.
Robert.
Actually, I think we have to follow up this topic and invite Jonas again in maybe, I don't know, a few months or a year and see what happened.
By then, I'll just be an AI picture. Like.
So, Robert, what about going to the AI and Music ST Arts Festival, which took place October this year, and Maybe, I don't know, next year, who knows? Jonas, do you know this festival?
I was aware. I wasn't there. I was aware of it.
Is it taking place yearly or
I was
yearly?
aware of this specific iteration. I'm not sure whether it is.
It's in Barcelona.
Okay, cool.
I mean, it's again, when we come back to this opening talk where when you use artificial intelligence as a word, as a buzzword, yeah, this is new, this is fantastic, we can sell tickets. Because
Yeah, of course. It's a new big shit.
yeah.
Hot shit. Not big shit, hot shit. Hot chip, hot shit. Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's time for
say
the
goodbye.
final. Yeah, exactly. No, I
Was a
think
long one, yeah.
I think we will definitely invite you again, and maybe in 1 year is the right point of time so that we can discuss again how everything developed. I have the gut feeling that it will come closer and closer. I'm not afraid of it because I always saw, or I always considered AI as a helping tool, and we are using it already. So why not using it to a certain extent, right? And yeah, Jonas, you have the last word. So how do you want to wrap up this roundtable?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me this time and possibly another time in the future. I'll happily, this has been a lovely conversation. I'll happily do that anytime, both on stream and off stream. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to more conversations on kind of like tech and music. I think it's a fascinating world. Again, yeah, maybe if I want to say just a few things about artificial intelligence, I want people to keep in mind to not be too afraid of its immediate effects on us. Also because that kind of like creates a passivity on a social level. And people shouldn't, think of AI as something, it's scary and it's, like it will take over and just leave it to, big Silicon Valley tech companies. But a very important sense that I guess want to give to people is just don't let, neither by the maths or by the possible implications for the future, don't let yourself get too scared by artificial intelligence. Read about it, find out about it, find out how you might use it. And think about, the world that we want to collaboratively create, both like in the music industry of the future. Maybe it won't be an industry, but like the music world of the future, the world of the future. Think about that world and how we might use AI, which is nothing else but just another tool in our giant toolbox.
Yes.
And actually go out there and create your own applications, use the applications to create your own art, and just never, hide away and think, it's all going to go downhill anyways. Just always, be active, I guess.
Yeah, and when you want to learn more about Johan and about his future activities, then go on this Instagram link. There you can follow him. I was about to make this, but it's
you get a post a year, something like that, and a story a month. That's what you get from following me on Instagram. But you can contact me. Like, this is also a very important thing. You can contact me if you have questions about the talk, if you have questions about anything.
Great.
Yeah, just contact me over that. Also, if you want to listen to my non-artificially intelligent music, just go to any music platform like Spotify, YouTube, and look for Johansson without anything else. No Scarlett, no JJ.
Yeah.
Just
and you are out there, our community. You hear it first, what we are planning. And I can tell you already something. Johan will stay.
Jonas.
Jonas will.
Yeah, no, it's
Jonas will stay in our bubble because we are planning a few things. Because he's not only an AI specialist, he's also an amazing singer. And let's make some advertisement. You released. That's something we have to say now. You released a really great track in, I don't know, October, September. I really like.
I could
Make
tell
some
you right now,
advertisement, please.
You're probably talking about The Fall. I did with a very dear friend of mine called Yannick Mounts, a greatly gifted music producer that I do probably most music with. It's called The Fall. It's out on the label Future Romance.
Yes.
Quite new label.
I really like it.
And yeah, it's I guess
Must be time for this to mention this, because so that the people have a more complete picture about you. So this is something you should really check out.
It's a very personal song as well, very dear to my heart. So check it out. Also, if you want to give me feedback on my music, again, it's still down there. The link.
There.
Just hit
No,
me up.
there.
You have to use the message function though, because I am terrible at updating my Instagram. This might be not a terrible New Year's resolution. Maybe I'll start posting on Instagram.
Yes, please. Okay, dear Marotopia community, thanks for joining us. Robert and I will make a little break, so we will come back around middle of January. I wish you a wonderful transition into the new year. We are very excited to continue with you guys, because you are the reason why we are doing this. And what we really want is interaction with you. So you know our socials, Marotopia on Instagram, or our Facebook pages. Let us know what you would like to have from us next year. What we can do, if we can listen to demos of yours or just talk about a certain topic. Let us know. We are hungry and eager to hear your opinion. Thanks a lot for joining us, and I give Robert the last word. Thanks a lot and goodbye.
So
please,
as you saw, I'm a nice bed for a cat here. I wish everybody a wonderful new year, and hope to see you all again. And we meet in person on a dance floor, maybe somewhere around the planet. And if not, please come back. We are here to stay. Marotopia.
Absolutely. You're wonderful people. Wish you a
Thank
wonderful NYE. We see us soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you guys for having me. Really, really. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Au revoir.
Bye.